21 of CemAir planes, and the High Court has overturned your decision. What is your response?
Our response is very simple. The High Court actually decided in favor of aviation safety, which is something that we stand for as the Civil Aviation Authority. So what it means with this outcome, which was a settlement that we reached with the airline, it basically means that pending the airline itself submitting an appeal to the Director of Civil Aviation to have our decision overturned, in that temporary period, which is a period of 30 days, they are able to fly. However, the court order was quite strict in terms of making sure that the issues that we brought up as part of the audit that we conducted with CemAir are not left on the sidelines, because the lives of people are simply too expensive for us to gamble on that. And as a result, the court order also said CemAir has to now comply with all the civil aviation regulations that we raised as them having not complied with in terms of us conducting our audit with them.
Yeah.
And just to give you a few examples in terms of what are the conditions the court order is putting in this temporary measure for CemAir to go back and fly, they're saying that because we raised an issue with regards to the weight of the aircraft when it takes off, and one of our findings actually uncovered that CemAir doesn't have a proper procedure in place that tells us, that gives us comfort as the CAA, that they have everything under control in terms of the weight of the aircraft. So, for example, what they would do is that they would, for instance, subtract 6 kilograms from each passenger in the aircraft. That's allowed in terms of the law. However, you need to give us comfort that there is a way in which you account for that weight. Otherwise, we may be sitting with a situation where the aircraft is actually operating aircraft that are overweight. That's a dire situation for us, Desiree, because there has been loss of life in the past where aircraft have actually crashed as a result of overweight. And so the court order made it clear that by 5 o'clock today, the CemAir has to provide a procedure to the CAA that we have to then approve by tomorrow 5 o'clock as well. And they also have to give us a weight plan that tells us exactly, that answers these unanswered questions that we raised during the audit, to say, just to give us comfort to say that you know what you're doing and that the passengers and the crew is safe. So I just want to reiterate that decisions that the CAA makes, unfortunately, to a layperson, they may seem like very administrative. I mean, this you could deal with a piece of paper, but this is something that we actually are risking the lives of people on, and for us, it's actually quite critical. Also, just lastly, what the court order also gave permission to the CAA to do is for us to continue with the audit, with the renewal audit that we're busy doing on CemAir.
Could the renewal audit come back with a similar result of saying they must close down?
Anything is possible at this stage, because what happens is that our regulations are quite strict, that in the process of starting with the audit, if you come up with a level 1 finding, you have to stop the audit immediately, because then you have to first satisfy that that level 1 finding, which is like the highest finding there is, and normally it's signified by saying that, you know, there's a safety risk here. And so when that comes up, we stop the audit and we address that. And that is what we're busy doing. So we had not concluded our audit. We're still busy doing that. But what this is in effect doing now is saying, continue with the audit, and anything can come up in the audit. But obviously, we're doing our work in good faith. You know, we have to believe that our operators.
I'm glad you raised the bit about good faith, because they had previously stated that there was malicious intent from the CAA. Just, you've spoken about the weight issues. What other issues were you concerned about?
The initial issue that actually caused us to put them on a precautionary grounding, which was on Wednesday last week, was related to a post holder. You know, civil aviation regulations would dictate that there are certain regulatory positions that must be there for an airline to operate safely. And in this particular instance, they could not, or rather the evidence that they gave us of the responsible person flight operations was someone who was not qualified for that position. So what we've done is that previously they had come up to us and said, okay, we're replacing this person that had left with this one. And we responded and said, no, that person is still not compliant with the regulation, so can you get somebody else? But they continue to use that person. And for us, that was a serious contravention of the regulations.
What happens to the clients who were affected?
The decision, normally, it's actually quite interesting, because in the process of us conducting the audit, normally the operator is very much aware of what we identify as serious and not. And between that time, this is the time that we expect that they would take the necessary precautions and make arrangements in case they are not able to meet. Because remember, they are the ones who are supposed, they have the duty to provide evidence to us. So if you know you don't have that evidence, it's clear that you have to then make alternative arrangements for your passengers. Yeah. And it's therefore, we leave that up to the operator itself.
What do you think the court took into consideration when they allowed them to continue business?
You know, it's always a tricky situation, Desiree, because we have to always convince people that are not in our space that some of the decisions that we take may seem very administrative, but they have serious safety implications. And in this case, the court felt, you know, can they fly whilst they are trying to comply with what it is that you want? Yeah. But what we are excited about is the fact that the court did not disregard any of our findings. In fact, they are insisting that the operator must still comply with all of the findings that we had raised.
Thanks for that update.
You're welcome.
Pindiwe Gwebu is the spokesperson for the South African Civil Aviation Authority.